What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 6-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. Picture this. You're sprinting out of a building engulfed in flames. The very structure you once revered as a temple of healing now is nothing but a towering inferno of burnout and frustration. Behind you, the endless nights, the thankless shifts, and the corporate medicine structure controlling how you practice are all consumed by the blaze. Up ahead, you see nothing but freedom, clarity, purpose, income, and impact. That's where I come in. And from side hustler to CEO, my signature one-on-one business coaching program, you'll start your own fire by launching your first profitable coaching, consulting, or midterm rental business and make clinical cash in 90 days or less. That's right, 4 or 5 figures in 90 days or less. This is for the doctors who feel like every shift is a dumpster fire, unmanageable, or just out of control. Let me help you rise from the ashes, thriving, and with a business that brings you life instead of sucking it out of you. Ready? Slide into my DMs on Instagram at Dr. Kimberly B with the word out, and let's turn the burnout into the bag. What's up, Doc? Welcome to yet another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have one of my emergency medicine sisters, Dr. Jamila Goldsmith, on the line today. And she is one of my personal gurus. I'm not going to say my guru, but one of my personal gurus when it comes to locum tenens. So as you guys know, I have done locums off and on since basically I finished residency. And just now I'm transitioning into a part-time gig since I am newly moved to Arkansas. But Jamila has been a resource, a go-to person for me when I have questions, when I'm like, these people are screwing me over. Y'all heard my kind of end of the year recap. She was one of the ones that I called and cried to be like, these people are screwing me over. What do I do? So, like I said, she is an amazing physician, clinician, and she's also an entrepreneur herself. She has a podcast. And you know what? Before I go into all of her accolades, let me just read her bio. And so it'll share a little bit more about her. So, Dr. Jamila Goldsmith is a board-certified emergency physician renowned for her expertise in locum tenens. As the founder and CEO of Goldsmith Medical Services, LLC, she has made significant impact by providing locums ER care to underserved and rural communities. Her unwavering commitment to professional growth and and physician empowerment is exemplified by her role as the chair of the ACEP Locum Tenens section. Having completed her undergraduate studies at Kettering University and her medical degree at Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, Dr. Goldsmith's academic journey laid a solid foundation for her career. She further honed her skills and expertise by training at the University of Chicago, where she gained invaluable clinical experience and refined her ability to handle complex medical cases. Now, sidebar, y'all. I did a little bit of my medical undergrad, my med school training in Chicago. So yeah, I know exactly where she trained, and this girl is good. It's good, period. So she's good at any hood, is what we like to say. Although now residing in Georgia, her heart remains firmly rooted in her home state of Michigan. In her free time, Dr. Goldsmith enjoys traveling, gardening, sports, and spending time with her family, in particular her 3-year-old son, Zaim. As a firm believer in sharing knowledges and experiences, Dr. Goldsmith hosts a valuable podcast called the Locums Lounge. Through this platform, she generously imparts valuable information about her locums journey, equipping fellow physicians with the necessary tools and insights to navigate the dynamic world of locum tenens medicine successfully. So, without further ado, Dr. Jamila Goldsmith, welcome to the Doxy of Money podcast. How are you?
Thank you. You see, I said, I'm bringing the link out for the Docs Get Money podcast. Let's talk about it.
Y'all, if you're listening to this, but if you're watching more specifically, when I logged on, I'm just seeing her with this coat. She turning around. She's doing all this stuff. I'm like, what's going on? She got this drink. She looks like a fabulous auntie. Look, she looks way richer than me. I'm like, how am I the host of the podcast and I got a sweatshirt on and she coming in with a mink coat? Like,
listen, we gonna get it done. We gonna get it done.
Well, thank you for being here. More importantly, Jamila, I know you're an extraordinarily busy lady and a podcaster yourself. So let me ask you first, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I have been off work. I'm getting ready to take my family to Thailand at the end of the month. I think I got one little stint of shifts and I'm preparing for that trip. So I feel blessed. I'm just grateful to be here with you. I thank you for having me. I'm good. Well, how can I not be good? I'm here with you right now.
I mean, how could you be even better? Because you're going to Thailand at the end of the month, which is incredible. And that's also part of the reason why I've had you on this podcast. So secretly, you guys, I know Jamila, like I said, she's someone that I can ask my questions to, but just even watching her live her life on social media, she's always doing locums at a magnificent spot where she gets to stay in luxury hotels and she's still able to take care of her son and her family. And I feel like you are someone that is doing locums the right way. You do not look burnt out. Girl, your skin is skinning, the hair is hairing, the mink is minking, the drink is drinking. So I had to have you on because I know there's so many other physicians that may have thought about doing locums as a route to kind of boosting their income or doing it, what have you, but they have so many questions about it. So right. I thought I would have you to kind of really talk about your journey and how you got into it and all of that as well. But start me from the beginning.
Wonderful.
Like, take me
That's
back
great.
From...
I hear what you're saying, like in terms of like, I look like I'm doing it right, but I didn't start out like this. I just want to say, which is why I coach, because all the mistakes that I made, the money that I lost, making like, you know, not being aware of what I needed to be aware of as I'm navigating through, you know, the industry. I want to help people prevent from doing that. And so like there were times where like, you know, I made mistakes and lost a month's worth of pay because I should have prepared differently. I should have been more strategic in how, you know, I set my schedule up and, you know, just different things, you know, not setting particular boundaries. Like now, and as a mom doing locums, I have very strict boundaries that are not negotiable. And so with that, then, you know, I'm putting myself in places where, like you said, I'm staying in luxury hotels. When I look, I gotta be safe. I'm a woman, okay? You can't have me up in the middle of nowhere staying at some little motelish looking. I can't do that. You know, I have to make sure I'm looking at everything from where am I going to stay? How far is it from the airport? Like so many different factors that I take into consideration when choosing an assignment, but it wasn't always that way, you know. And, you know, starting out in locums, I knew that there was something bigger or better for me in medicine. I don't know if you know this, I have an engineering degree. I spent 4.5 years undergrad. I worked for a company. It was like a co-op program. I worked for a company. I worked for Siemens, building conveyor systems designing conveyor systems for like the Gap, Walmart, at the time Blockbuster. I'm giving my age. So like that's what I thought I was gonna do. Yeah. And then my last year of undergrad, it was like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to be a doctor. And so then that whole journey began. But I felt like at the end of residency, I was very torn. I felt like I've given so much of my life to education in general. Like I've
Yes.
sacrificed so much. I've missed a lot. And yes, the reward is worth it in the end. You know, that's debatable, but it's worth it in the end in terms of like I can live a good life. I can provide for my family,
Right.
you know, give my son experiences that I didn't have. But I wasn't willing to give any more of myself that I didn't really want to give, just to be on a pathway that I didn't even know if it was the pathway that I wanted.
I
So
can totally relate to that. I mean, you don't know this about me, my audience knows, but I was, second year, people start asking you, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to do fellowship? Like, what are you going to do? And so I always thought that I wanted to be critical care because I absolutely love critical care. I love the resuscitation of it all. I love the sickness. I love literally the moments on TV when you're snatching someone back, or you do like a precordial thump and they come out of VFib and they wake up. Like, those are the moments that I live for. That's not what happens every day, but I love resuscitating people. And so I ended up saying yes to a neurocritical care fellowship only to feel absolutely terrible because of all of the same things. I'm like, I don't want to be 35 and just now finishing training. And the money lost to the 2 years. All of my other co-residents were doing other stuff. So I decided, like, literally a month before residency was over, to just quit the fellowship. Like, I'm like, I didn't even do it because it didn't seem like the time continuing to be invested in that was going to be worth the reward. And the same thing, it's like I've given up my 20s trying to be a doctor, going to school, doing all this stuff. It's like I want to live my life. I want to actually enjoy the money that I'm supposed to be making from
that's
this.
how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. And I commend you because so many people get caught up on a path because they're like, well, I'm already in it. And like, how do I get off of the boat now? Like, what do I do? How do I get off the bus? Like, I'm already on this journey. And then you have all the external factors, like, everyone is, it's like we're used to getting, congratulatory, things from like, I'm pretty sure if you're a doctor, most people, maybe not all, but at some point you have been commended for being a hard worker, being dedicated, taking your career, your life to the next level. Like, we're used to that. And so it's hard to be like, okay, I'm going to change paths. I remember my mom was telling me how, girl, the recruiters was calling her house.
They were calling your mother's house?
I don't know if they looked me up. I don't know how that happened, but she was getting the calls. And they were talking to her about the jobs. Okay, my mother is not a doctor. My mom is an entrepreneur, but she's not a doctor. Okay? So she's like, okay, Jamila, but these people talk about $500,000 if you go to this little bit. I said, that little bitty town you talking about, it was like a dot. I was like, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I told her, I said, you know what? I just need you to trust me. I need you to trust me. I know it seems scary what I'm trying to do because at this point I decided like fellowship was not for me. I decided academics was not for me. And I really decided I didn't really feel strongly about moving to any random part of the country, being a single woman, not knowing if I would want to be there for 2 years. I didn't want to have that pressure on me. And so I was like, I'm going to start this business. I've talked to people who are doing it and are doing it successfully. And I think that I can make this happen. And so my mom has trusted me with every decision that I've made in life, as crazy as it has been, from like modeling career that didn't pop off to I'm going to be a doctor now, Mom. I know I'm an engineer and we did all this work, but she's trusted me with every decision that I made and having that kind of support to be like, okay, try it out. Do what you're going to do.
So nothing beats a failure but a try. That's what my mom always said. Nothing beats a failure. You got to just try and actually try.
They were trying.
Good. That's so good. So did you go straight into locums right out of residency?
Straight out of residency.
Okay, yeah. Tell us your journey. So yeah, because I honestly don't know. I
spent a year. I did a prelim year in general surgery because I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. And then I figured, you know what? That is not the life for me. I really don't want to live in a hospital. I started, like through residency, I started thinking about the type of life I wanted to live, the type of mom I wanted to be. And not to say that I'm not shading any surgeons, like, we need y'all. Okay. Yeah. I just figured out that wasn't for me. And so luckily I had a chance to re-enter the match, ended up matching at University of Chicago, and I got time for the critical care. I finished early. I ended up trauma. I got time for trauma. And I finished residency early. So I finished residency like May. April, actually end of April, May, I finished residency. And so I was like, okay, well, I gotta work. Cause like now, you know, I'm off early. I need to figure out what I was gonna do. So I started setting up stuff for me to get ready for locums, the end of residency. Cause I was like, at minimum, I'm moonlighting somewhere because I don't have a job.
Right.
And so, and actually one of the places that was recruiting me for full time ended up taking me on as PRN because I was like, I don't know if I want to be here. It was in Indianapolis. I was like, I don't know if I want to be here. And so I started working that job, I think in May, after I finished residency. And so then it was just like, okay. And it was comfortable. The first job, it was like, it wasn't single coverage. It was like 2 or 3 other docs working with me at one time. So it was a good little introduction into, you know, being on my own, well, somewhat being on my own as a new attending rather. And then my first real locums job was single coverage, middle of nowhere, Indiana. And I had to learn how to make those quick decisions. But I just referred back to like my training and the times that there was one rotation in residency as a senior where you ran one entire side of the ER. And so I was like, this is no different than running that side of the ER. Yeah. I don't have nobody ask questions. And I created a group chat then, like, okay, let me run this by one of my friends. And we still have that group chat to this day. But that was my journey. And then I thought that I would only end up doing it for a year. And the year turned into 2 years. And, you know, all the way like from 16 to 2020, I was like full-time doing locums until pandemic hit and things kind of shifted a bit. But yeah.
That's so cool. And that's so interesting as well too, because locums was the first thing that I turned to because I did have a part-time contract that I was going to do kind of locums, or not locums, but some moonlighting for like 4 shifts a month while I was in fellowship so I could keep my training going and then still work in the ICU. But that didn't start until October. So that I was like, well, I'm getting all these emails in my email box. Let me actually respond to somebody and call and say, okay, yeah, I'm actually looking for a job. I have a Wisconsin license. I'm from Wisconsin. So let me go and work there. So my first locums gig was actually a single coverage, semi in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, because I know that area pretty well. But yeah, I saw stuff that I had never seen before. I was dealing with stuff I had never dealt with before. And you have to learn really, really quickly how to really be an attending. So, but I just love that was kind of like both of our safety nets. Like, okay, I'm not doing this, and this. There's going to be locums until I'm able to figure out what I want.
Yeah, got to make it work. And I thought that's what I thought, okay, I'll do this for a year. And then I'll know what type of hospital setting I want to work in. Maybe I'll figure out where I want to live. And then the freedom and the money and being able to negotiate high rates and being able to take vacations when I want to, being able to like, be like, okay, I need this time for me. Like I took a month off to study for my boards, like having the ability to be like, okay, let me put me first. And then I'll put work in there around me. Like I could not, I didn't want to negotiate that aspect of my career like anymore. And so it just felt like, okay, I'm going to make this my full-time job. This is it. All the way up until the pandemic, everybody kind of scrambled.
Everything changed.
Everybody scrambled.
Changed. I was going to ask you, how did your program really look at you when you decided to not do any other like kind of traditional doctor route? As meaning you didn't do the academics, you didn't, do a fellowship. you didn't go take a contracted role. Did your program support you in that? Did they not care? How did they treat you?
That is an amazing question because I felt like at the time I was the one person who didn't have a shit together. Because it was like, what you gonna do? I spent some time in Philly. I went to a place I was considering helping them start a new fellowship. I was gonna be the first fellow. It was like a telemedicine fellowship.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay, I could do this, but do I really need to do a fellowship and not make no real money this year to do this?
Right.
Like, people doing telemedicine now, like, and this was in 2015 actually. And I was like, do I really need to spend a year doing this? And I had to really dig deep to figure out what my motivation for wanting to do that particular thing and the work that would be involved. And I was like, is the payoff really going to be worth it in the end?
Yes.
I think it's just going to be what people were trying to present. The motivation was that, look at these great people you get to work with, like people who had names in emergency medicine. And I was just like, that's great, but that's not what feeds my spirit. Like that doesn't motivate me. And my question, it was so crazy. It was like, I know this girl is crazy, because I was asking this pioneer in emergency medicine, so how you make money though? Like, how does this translate to money? Because you talking about this little fellow salary right here, and I need some money. These bills is about to come in, these student loans. In the long run, how is this going to translate to dollars? And he couldn't really answer that for me. He was content with the papers, the notoriety, everything that built him up to be in that chair position that he was in, like that was him. That's what he loved. But for me, I just didn't see where that fit with what my motive. It just didn't serve me, And so I was like, let me tell you, I shut down, because everybody was like, well, you have this great opportunity. Like, why wouldn't you say yes? And then everyone was like, whenever you get an opportunity, you should just say yes. And I mean, this is what people were saying, like, and I'm just like, no, what if the opportunity ain't the right one? Like, I don't have to say yes to anything I don't really want to do. And so I was like, I really had shut down for like a month trying to figure that out. And I felt I was being pushed in that direction. I even had jobs offered to me in other academic institutions where they're like, yeah, you don't need the fellowship. Just come here and start up our telemedicine program. Like, we just want you to come here. And I was like, but I don't even know if I feel academics like that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I don't feel like coming out of residency and walking into a job in a residency program that I am equipped to bring anything. And maybe that was just some, imposter syndrome going on.
Yeah.
But I was like, I feel like I need to get my feet wet and figure out who I am as a doctor before I could teach somebody else how to do it. It was more so that. And so I didn't feel like any of that was right. And my program was like, what's wrong with you? Why you can't make a decision? You have all this stuff in front of you. I talked to one attending, and he had the best advice for me ever. And he was on that academic path. He was doing the papers. I know he took a moment to himself to kind of redirect his interest. But he was like, Jamila, you don't need that fellowship to do this. You don't need academics to do this. Like, whatever it is you want to do in medicine, I just see you doing it. I don't think you need any of this. I was like, yo, that's the best advice I've heard. And that kind of like gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I didn't know whether it was going to be a telemedicine at the time. I didn't know I just knew that whatever was for me, and what didn't feel right for me, what didn't feel right in my spirit, I didn't have to do that. So
that's so good. That's really good, because similarly, I had drama with my program because you did it in a lot more classy way. It sounds like in a nice way. I literally said yes until I couldn't say yes anymore, until I just said no to it. And I had like a huge breakdown moment where I literally just picked up the phone and I just told my future program director that I quit. And then I talked to my actual, my emergency medicine program director, like maybe later on that week, or like send him an email and set up a meeting and talk to him about it or what have you. But the strange thing about it for me is that I was a part of the very first class of residents in Memphis, and all of my attendings that I was modeling myself after were entrepreneurs on the side. They had coffee companies, medical director of a men's clinic, had all kinds. Well, my mentor had a production company and won an Emmy for 24/7, 365, a documentary about emergency medicine. Wow. So yes, he was an academician, but everybody else had some sort of a passion outside of medicine. So to feel forced in a way to, oh, this is a great opportunity. You're going to be the first one. I'm the only little raisin in the oatmeal. I'm one of the first friends. It was going to make the program look so good. Yeah. And I'm just like, but for what? So I can do what with this?
And for who? Right, for who? Am I doing this for you, or am I doing this for me?
Who is this a good idea, a good opportunity for? I'm so glad that you said that, because that's something that I think that I had to ask myself in the middle of my breakdown. And I did not have a plan. I had no plan at all whatsoever. I just knew that this wasn't going to be the right thing. And it did make me feel like I was the only one that didn't have shit together. Because if you look at my residency graduation program, it just says locum tenens. And I'm just thinking everybody else is like, oh,
they did me like that too. Don't feel bad. They did me like that too. Locum tenens. I said, why y'all got to do? I am an entrepreneur, business owner. Don't just be trying to shade me with just a little bit, couple of little words.
Exactly.
But now it's different. They send people my way who are wondering or who are curious about locum. So
I love that.
Yeah, so it's different. Although they kept asking, when you gonna get a real job? I'm like, this feels like my real job. I think this is my real job.
It is a real job, because they're paying me real money to come here and do this real work at these real ass hospitals. So
okay. And I think that's something that shifted the mindset is when people were getting burned out during COVID and we were losing interest. It's like, you gotta be able to figure out how to keep a balance in medicine. And I feel like what better way to be able to still do something you love, still be able to do emergency medicine, but not feel like you're going to be trapped or get burned out because you don't have any control over your time.
Yeah.
So I love that so many residents are reaching out to me and talking to me, asking questions, because I didn't have that community then. I didn't have people. I didn't know. They were out there. I just didn't know who they were because it was not something that was like highlighted. That was not an option that anybody wanted you to pursue. It was like, oh, somebody stumbled across, or they're doing it on the side. It was not like, oh, you can do this as a full-time career.
Right. And you know what? And you can probably speak to this because you started doing locums a little bit before, a few years before I did, but I would genuinely say, as of a few years ago, locums had a bad rap because a lot of the times these were the doctors that were rejected or had disciplinary problems at their full-time job, and they needed to, do something. So their clinical acumen maybe was touch and go, or all kinds of different things.
It was for the bad doctors. It was for the bad doctors. It was, I think what has happened is like, so I look at, the doctors who trained me, are they like considered the baby boomers? Some of them,
they're boomers. They're boomers now.
Their mindset was, you get a job, you stay in it, you work there until you retire.
Yep.
That's what you do. You work somewhere 30 years, the janitor, everybody knows you. Like, that was a mindset in like a job. Okay. Yep. Or you go to another hospital, you make another, vertical move somewhere else. That was a mindset. I feel like our generation of doctors saw how toxic medicine could be to your families, to your own personal space. Look at our suicide rates. Look at physician suicide rates. Like,
yep.
I was talking to somebody about how many people who were close to me that I trained with went to medical school who like unalived themselves. And like the stressors that brought that on all had to do with medicine. Most of it had to do with medicine.
Yeah.
Some aspect of it was the career.
Yeah.
And so I think, like I was saying, COVID highlighted we got to do something different in how we take care of ourselves in medicine as in our careers. And I feel like that is what makes locums a little bit more like, okay, what is this? How can I do this? And changes the dynamic, changes the bad rep that you see when you see locums doctors. Because people would be like, oh, you normal. I'm like, yeah, I'm normal.
Yeah.
I train
normal.
well. I'm board certified.
Yes.
Clean record here. Like, I have no problem getting along. Like, whenever I go to work, people are happy to see me.
Happy to see me.
So
and tell me that every single time I walk into the hospital.
So I think
Dr. so good. I'm so glad I saw your name on the schedule. They yes.
It might have been for people who went through whatever they went through in medicine and couldn't get a job or were looked like negative, people looking at them in a negative light. And yes, they probably resorted to locums. But I think now in our age of practicing medicine, it's more so it kind of correlates with that whole, I'm trying to think of the term, just simply contract work, like the, what do you call it? Like the Uber drivers and it's a term and I can't think of it right now. Probably this cocktail kicking in, but basically like being able to be your own boss, like having an option to make money as much as you want, or, you know, to dabble in it on the side, even if you do have a full-time job, but to be able to have some control over like, I can always make money.
Yes.
And I can, you know, either do this completely like full-time and then have some control over my life, my well-being, my, you know, my health. And I think that's why it's so appealing. And that's why the face of locums has changed.
Yes. And you said it so well. The face of locums has changed. And I think because there is a new generation of us elder millennials, and millennials coming into the workforce. And that's what we really want, and have that flexibility, that it's helped to bring the change of in medicine on that front. And we are not our predecessors, I think, because emergency medicine is relatively a young specialty in the house of medicine. So we're only like what, 50-ish plus, maybe 60 years old as far as an established specialty. So now that there's more board certified, actually trained physicians, not necessarily and like I said, no shade to any other specialty, family medicine, grandfathered in, or internal medicine, grandfathered in, or even emergency medicine fellowship, because that's a different, of course, training than emergency medicine residency, 3 or 4 intensive years of actually being very prepared to work into the emergency department, that we automatically are bringing a higher level of care to the bedside. And I think it's also us as a generation of doctors, us kind of millennials, that are saying, we know our worth. And you said this so well, like we don't value being at a hospital for 30 years, knowing the janitor, seeing CEOs come and go, and dealing with all of that. That's not necessarily what we necessarily always value. And so I'm glad that we're
now, like with the way these group, I said, that's not even our life now. It's not even an option, to be perfectly honest. Look at all the groups that, you know, get bought out. And I mean, look at what's happening in emergency medicine. Like, that's not our life right now.
No, it's not. It's not possible to do that. It's not really possible to be a hospital employee until it's retirement. It's just the nature of healthcare, I'll just say in general, has changed so much. What would you say, Jamila, has been some of the downsides of doing locums, though? Like, of course, we can preach from the rooftop all day what's amazing about it, but in your career, what do you feel like has been some of the downsides of being locums?
I think the main thing is that you really have to be intentional about building the community around you with your colleagues. Because I'm in and out, and, you know, like, you don't end up in the same town as these people, so you're not hanging out. Like, you know how it is coming up through residency, you like, those are your people. Like, most of the time you find at least a handful of folks that you train with, that you hang out with and have a social life, or do things outside of the workplace. That piece I kind of miss, because I don't have that. I have to like I said, be intentional about that community and connecting with people like you and other people in medicine, be it at a conference or whatever. Being involved with ASEP, being involved with, AAEM. So, like, I feel like you have to be more intentional to stay grounded and keep, your people around you, because you're not in one place. I think that's one of the things. I think, in terms of working an assignment, especially a good assignment, and not knowing how long you're going to be with those people, because I do, like, one of my assignments, I'm going to some of them are having the graduation parties. I stop through there if I can, if I'm, in town. And so you do meet people and people embrace you. And then you're just like, okay, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, So then there's that piece of it. And then I feel like earlier in my career doing locums, it was more of a concern. Now with some mindset shifts, I don't feel that way as much, but the like instability of feeling like, will I be able to get all my shifts for the month? Am I going to, is something going to happen and I'm going to lose money? Or like questioning the stability of locums early on in my career. That was something that I would be like anxious about, making sure my schedule. Now my schedule is pretty much booked. I'm getting ready to start booking for June, so I don't worry about that. Even if it's a month that doesn't have, my little criteria, like my little quota of shifts that I want to work, I don't worry about it, because like even this month I picked up 2 shifts. One of those was a bonus shift, so really equivalent to about 3 shifts. And I wasn't even anticipating that money.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually discussing another shift with a bonus right now. I was telling Dr. Timmy the other day, I was like, girl, I'm still working holiday bonus shifts. We in February. I'm still getting the bonus money.
Well, it's Black History Month, so these are
Thank you. This is the holiday. As a matter of fact, every shift I pick up this month, it's got to have some extra. It's got to have a Black History Month tax attached.
Right.
Black History Month tax.
Exactly.
Black History Month tax.
I love that. And you know what? That's I didn't think about it until you said that, but I would agree. The community aspect if you're not intentional about having the people around you that you can call and talk to and ask questions and run cases by, or even just be like, just have friendship with, have some girl, guess what these people did today, or guess what happened at this house. Just have that same type of relationship. It is very different, because I'm a person that is, well, we both said, like, they love it when we come, but it's just like, I will get so attached to the people that are there that when it's time to go, it's just like, oh, it's like a piece of my heart. Let it go. And it's like, oh, no, I don't want to stop working.
And they'll hit me up. They'll hit me up like, hey, I didn't see you on the schedule next month. Are you coming back? I'll come back. And I actually, this month I picked up a shift in that location because they was playing with my money. They had me booked, and the minute people start playing with my money, that same energy you give me, I'm giving you that same energy back, because I can't. This is my livelihood. We confirmed these 3 dates. Now you want to change me last minute to another 3 dates that don't work for me. You can't do that to me. And expect that I'm going to give you my time. So the openings that they had, none of them worked for me, and so they just called me last minute. Somebody got sick, was like, hey, can you come in this day? And normally I would have added that Black History Month tax, but because the people have been reaching out like, are you coming back? We miss you. I said, I'll pick up this shit. And baby, that shit was so hard. I said, I must really like y'all a lot, because this shift was hard. Okay. And I should have had a tax attached to it. But yeah, that you do get that, like, people who genuinely enjoy working with you and you enjoy them the same, and it's like, okay, it may come to an end. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's not as unstable as before. But one thing you said that I wanted to ask you more about is that you really have to develop boundaries to continue to be successful in locums. And you really said that, I don't know if that was before we got on or right in the beginning when we started recording, but since you are now a mother and you were back in the day you were doing this, of course, as a single woman, which I fully relate to. And now that you have a 3-year-old at home, what boundaries have you really had to enforce? Can you like share more about that part?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm licensed in so many different states, the Midwest, the DMV area. I'm based in Atlanta. And so, one of the things about being based in a major metropolitan area with the airport, you can pretty much get anywhere. And so it's tempting to be like, oh, they got this kind of money in Illinois. Yeah, I can go get that. But the reality is, like, what kind of stress or strain is that going to place on my family? So now when I look at the type, back in the day, I would go Arizona, I go Illinois, I go anywhere if the money was right. And now it's more so like, okay, what's this trip going to look like? Am I going to be able to get off work, get to the airport and get home? Because I don't like to spend unnecessary days in a hotel when I could be at home taking care of my family, taking care of business, and doing other things. So the travel time is a major, major boundary. And so down to it's got to be a Delta flight. It's got to be a direct flight. And I ain't driving longer than an hour, 20 minutes when I get there.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things where it's like, oh, well, if you could just 2 hours, 3. And I might do that 2 hour back in the day, but now that hour after momming and working, that hour means a lot. And so now it's more so, can I get in and out? And it just so happens I've been doing a lot of night shifts. That's not typically my preference. I usually am open to any type of shift, but it has been helpful in that I can take my son to school. I have, my support system is my mom definitely is a big support. And I think that's key in being, a parent doing this, is having a very strong support system at home. I only work 3 days, 4 days at tops when I leave for an assignment. It ends up being like 2 weekends a month. And then I'm home during the week, take my son to school, take him to soccer, take him to swimming. I'm home for those things. But I usually can drop him off at school, fly in, get a little bit of rest, go to work that night. And then once I'm done with the block of shifts, get off, go to the airport and get home and can pick my son up from school. And so that's like the way that I have made it work for me. And he doesn't miss not having me at home. Like I'm there. I'm present with him and more present. And we did talk about this before coming on. More present with him in my locum job than I was in my full-time job when I was just waking up, going to work every day. I wasn't seeing him the way that I see him now. When I just go spend that time, work those 3-4 shifts and come home.
Yeah, because we did talk about that before we started recording, but tell us a little bit about that, because I found that to be fascinating. It's just like, you would think that if you're in the exact same city, only minutes away from your bed, not necessarily hours in a plane trip and a car ride, that it would be more time. But apparently in your situation, it was less. So how did that, tell us about that situation?
It seemed okay, being in Atlanta, and I feel like a lot of the places like metropolitan cities where you're working, the shift times are a little bit shorter, 9-10 hour shifts. I usually prefer to work 12s. So when you're working shorter hours, you got to work more days in the month to make up for those hours that you're missing. If you got a bottom line you're trying to meet. So I will work more days in my full-time job, or either I'm working less days and not getting the money. So most of the time I'm working more days in the full-time job, and I'm working hours that don't allow me to see him. Either I'm leaving before he was, waking up, or I'm getting home as he's going to bed. So I wasn't getting that time with him. And then when I'm recovering from all these multiple shifts in the month, then I'm really not fully present to be involved. I'm negotiating time with colleagues to be home for certain things. Whereas with locums, like every Wednesday is swim lesson day. Like I don't work any Wednesday, and if I have to do it, it's because I'm getting compensated very, very well. And mommy's going to take you to Thailand when I miss swim lessons this day. So it makes more sense because I'm buying back my time. And so, no, he doesn't see me 2 weekends out the month, but I'm very present with him majority of the rest of the month. Like I'm home on most days.
And can be a mom, can play, can do whatever, can take him to the pool on a Tuesday afternoon if you want to. It just doesn't, I think that's one of the most powerful things about locums is that, like you said, you're buying back your time. Your time is truly your own. You're not contracted a certain amount of hours, certain holidays, certain number of type of shifts that you have to do. You really can make this your own, however your life is. If you have 0 kids, you can, go hard in the paint and work as much as you want. Or if you have a family or if you have something else that you're obliged to, you can make it work around that. But excuse me, I love the way that you said that, like you get a chance to buy back your own time so that the memories that you do have with your son are really, really precious and you can fully be there. You're not answering the phone for anybody. You got systems and stuff in place where that's being handled and you can just really just live your life. So,
because you feel like you get off work one day and you come home, you're trying to recover, you got to go to work the next day. It's like, dang, like you really don't get to like really like bring it down enough because you're like, okay, let me make sure I go to bed.
I got to bring it all the way back up again.
Yeah. So even that feeling when I was working my full-time job and now that I'm, full-time locums, that feeling is gone. Like I know for those 3-4 days, I'm going to work. I'm going to get rest. I'm going to get uninterrupted rest for the most part, unless I'm getting calls. That's different.
Yeah.
But, and then I can be fully refreshed, present for the work that I'm doing. And then when I'm home, I'm home. Yeah. That is such a big difference. Being able to even compartmentalize in that way as a parent, it makes a difference, And a lot of women I come across are like, I don't know how you do that as a mom. I don't know. It's going to be hard. And it will change. I will probably have to readjust once my son is like, actually, he's like daycare now. He's going to be in school and there are going to be more activities. I'm going to have to regroup and readjust and figure out how to make it work with that change. But that's life, We're always changing and we should always be readjusting. So, yeah.
So good. I love that. I think another question that I get from people, and I'm sure you get this as well too, is how do you take care of all of the benefits that you need to take care of? Like, what do you do for a 401k? What do you do for health insurance, disability insurance, all of those other things? Malpractice is usually covered by the assignment in the hospital. But like I said, how do you take care of your own personal benefits so that you can take care of yourself and your family? God forbid somebody gets sick or injured or anything else like that.
That was one of the first things, because that was my major concern when starting in this, was like, what I'm gonna do about benefits. And that can be scary enough in itself to be like, I gotta have a job, how am I gonna get benefits? And some people get trapped into that line of thinking like, I have to show up and give let these people own me just to get a little bit of benefits. Like, no, when you actually calculate out what you're getting back for the amount of money that you have to spend on your benefits, like it actually makes sense for me. I put everything on cruise control. I've had the same benefits, been with the same company, and they might be a little bit higher, but they take all of my so my health benefits are there. Any little short-term disability plans are with them. I even get a little life insurance policy with them, although I have outside disability and life insurance outside of that. But it's specifically for doctors who are doing contract work. And so they kind of package it all up for you in that way. And it's a write-off when you set your business up. So So that's all set up, and I have a wealth manager, somebody who I've been working with since I finished residency, and that's how I do my 401k and my Roth and all that stuff is set up there. And I'm having to make some adjustments with my business in terms of like accounting, just because now I have, more expenses in terms of like my home life and family. And so I'm taking a different approach with that than as opposed to being a single person and it just being business. But yeah, pretty much in general, everything has been in cruise control. I haven't really had to change much when it comes to that. And so, yeah.
That's good to know. I'm also with the company. People ask me that as well too, and I'm just like, yeah, I just kind of bought my benefits through this company that helps contracted physicians get benefits, and
yeah,
I've been with them, like you said, pretty much since I finished residency, and that's been on cruise control. Now that I have a baby to be on the way, things will change slightly, but there's not too much that has been for that. But I guess saying that to say, if you're interested in doing locums and if benefits is something that is holding you back, please know that there are companies that are out there.
Don't let that hold you back.
That will support you with that. And I think that's also something that maybe, and this is probably a question to you, Jamila, like who should really be on your team if you are going to be locum tenens, and if it's going to be something that you're going to do full time, because I love the fact that you have a wealth manager. I love the fact that you have, like you said, a company that you work with through benefits, but you need people to kind of help you to manage your business, because what we're doing is really being entrepreneurs just inside of medicine, and we're independent contractors. So we don't have the same support system as maybe other people do. But who would you say needs to be on a team for somebody that is starting locums and they don't have any entrepreneurial experience, skills, or anything like that at all?
I think if you take on a mindset that I am not the smartest person in the room and that there are people who can handle these things that are better equipped to do it, and you take the time to invest in your business, invest in yourself to have that type of support around you, then you will do fine. You don't have to have the entrepreneurial mindset. You don't have to have that. We have to have the mindset, but you don't have to have the experience is what I'm saying. But if you know how to find the resources, that is key. So for me, it started out with, I have a boutique, started out with a boutique recruiter type company that did basically job search, finding the local jobs. I still have that person. She also thankfully manages all my license renewals, all my certifications, keeps all the expenses and stuff. She gives me a report of that. I also have my own jobs that I find that she doesn't manage, but then I'm able to incorporate that into what she gives me, and I have all that in line. So I have that person. I would say if you don't have that person, then this is something that, since working with Dr. Kimmy, I've done a VA, have a virtual assistant, have a person who you can train on how you want things done, keep all your credentialing files in order, keep all your dates on when you need to do your ACLS, your PALS and all that stuff. Keep have them keep track of that and give you reminders so that you're not scrambling to get that stuff done. Let's see. Yeah, so basically that you need a person who's going to handle your administrative things. And yes, you could do it on your own, but really that's a lot, especially if you're in multiple states, and you don't have to do it. Use your brain power to do something that actually needs you to do it, and that somebody else can do. You need a good accountant, somebody who feels comfortable with your financial situation. You need somebody comfortable with you, especially if you're working in multiple states. How do they do your filings? You need somebody who's comfortable working with, doctors who are contractors. That is key. You also, I think, in terms of home life, especially even when I was single, I still had a housekeeper, because I don't got time to clean up and do any of that stuff. So somebody come in, make it nice, and when I come home, I can relax and not be scrambling and do those kind of things. So your domestic folks, whether that's a organizer, a nanny. You need people to kind of keep home, because home is a business in itself. It may not be a LLC, but home is a business.
Yes,
okay. And if that's not running right, you can't run your stuff right.
Right.
So I have all the I know what contractors call, something break down if I'm gone, get that together. Housekeeper, organizer. Let's see what else would I leave out. Whoever you working with for your locum job, you trusted people, for that. I think that's it. My VA, like, if she missing for a couple of days, I'll be like, girl, what?
Are you okay? What's going on?
Right, what's happening? True.
No, that's been, honestly, it took me a while to get a VA because I didn't understand. I think this is a woman thing. This might be a Black woman thing. This may be a medicine thing as well too. But I felt the need to just be doing all of the things. Like, I just had to, I got to respond to this email. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I realized after getting a business coach myself that it's just like, some of these things I don't need to do. And I, like you said, I can easily train someone. Here's my schedule. Here's how I like to be managed. Here are my non-negotiables. Have at it. Like, respond to these people.
Yes.
Like, I just take this off of my plate because I found that I wasn't getting things in on time. It would be late. And that's a more mental pressure on myself to not only be at work saving the lives, but then have to come in or have to, like, in between patients, try to, like, send something to a recruiter.
I always feel like something's supposed to be getting done that ain't getting done. It's not getting done. That's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. But, and I've sung Cynthia's praises so many different times, but she has been a lifesaver. And one of the first things that she did was, like I said, manage my email box, manage my calendar, and manage speaking to locums recruiters.
Yes.
And dealing with the paperwork and administration of that, because we are paid very well to come in and do the actual work of doctoring. They do not pay us to send emails and to fill in paperwork, even though it needs to be done. But that's not our best.
Come to me and they want me to fill out the paperwork. I'm like, listen, you need to pre-fill this app, or like, we just, like, why we can't do that?
Why are we doing this? Right.
I don't have time to do this. I'm giving you all the information that you need. I would just like to look it over and add what I need to add and sign. Like, if you can't do that, like,
no.
So no, right. I need my brain power to save lives, not to do administrative tasks.
Exactly. Well, tell us a little bit about your coaching business. Tell us what you do on the side when you're not saving lives or hanging out with Zayn, taking him to Thailand. Girl, I wish I was your dependent right now to go to Thailand.
Trying to get the trips in before he on a full-time school schedule. So with my coaching, so I have, as you mentioned, the podcast, which is just getting doctors to think a different way in terms of how they practice medicine and the mindset shifts that we have to make to even get in a space to be confident enough to start a business or do locums. With Boss Life Coaching, which is my coaching program, I dig in a little bit deeper with doctors and working with them on an individual level to help them. For one, depending on where people start, get into the mindset that locums is a viable option for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then how do I set up the business? That's a whole nother aspect of it.
Yes.
So then setting up the business, and then there's also how do I work with these recruiters? How do I set up my jobs? How do I, choose the right assignments? And then making all those decisions to create longevity in locums, to create something that's sustainable and lucrative in locums. So it's so many people who I see in the groups and they're like, I'm not making no money. I'm staying here. And everybody be like, well, you ain't doing it right. And that's a fact. Like, you can do it, but there are ways to do locums wrong. Mm-hmm. And these recruiters know that, and they take advantage of the doctors who do not have that experience. Even to this day, I have to remind some folks, I've been doing this for a long time, and what you are trying to tell me I should accept, that is not the standard. That is not. So imagine someone who has no skin in the game, and they're coming in, and these people are taking advantage of them. And so not only does it hurt that individual person, but it hurts like the entire industry.
Yeah.
Because then they're expecting to like, you know, cut things from other doctors and things, and it just changes like the standard. So that's what my coaching program aims to do, is to help doctors create sustainable, lucrative careers in locums. And so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that are so commonly made when you're, you know, first starting out in this industry.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned that your mom is an entrepreneur. Clearly, we're both entrepreneurs from the medical side, but then also you've got the coaching business. What made you want to start coaching? Like, how did that come about? Because I think everybody kind of gets to coaching in a different way. So what was it to you that that drew you in and made you want to start your coaching business?
Well, I had to really give myself credit for what I had done. You know, I really I think I downgraded what I did. Like it's not an easy task to finish residency, and as we talked, shut down all the negativity, all the things that like the external factors that may influence you to go a certain direction. It's not easy to first put that behind you and say, okay, let me start a business.
Right.
Let me do something that most people don't do. And I really didn't give myself enough credit for being able to take that step. And so when people start coming to me and asking me questions about how did you do this, you know, asking me specific questions about starting a locums business, asking me questions about dealing with assignments, how do you manage the staff, how do you do this? I had to really say, okay, well, like, I'm kind of an expert in this, like, because people know and are coming to me and saying, hey, how do I handle this? And then as far as like coaching, it's like, well, how do I actually help you get to the next level? Like, I can answer these questions for you. That still isn't going to help you get a full perspective on how you need to approach this. Like, I would love to invest that time in you. And I think for people to get the full extent of like, you know, coaching, like they have to be invested as well and really want to get to like from A to B. And so that's how coaching came about. It was like, I worked with a business coach. It was like, Jamila, you have something here. And you need to package that up because that is a thing. Like most people cannot just do that. You're doing something that I wouldn't know how to do. And I was like, okay, yeah. Like in my mind even was like, oh, anybody can do this. But really, anybody can't do this. And so acknowledging that and being able to like actually put a program together that is beneficial and helping people get, you know, to the point where I am right now, like that is like what I love about my coaching program. So yeah, helping people get to, you know, achieve the boss life. That's what it is.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm so glad that you started off with saying you had to own your own expertise first, because some things that we think that come so naturally, we believe that everybody feels like that. Oh, everybody, like you said, can just go do locums or just, you know, start a business or just no. If everybody could do it, everybody would be doing it. And that is not a fact. There is something, whether it's a gap in knowledge, whether there's mindset shift that needs to happen, where there's just sometimes even a roadmap, like of how to actually do it faster or quicker. That's really what people are looking for. But it all starts with you realizing that you have something special and you have something innate in you and to share. And I find that since you said that, I find that so many of my clients who are physicians or doctors as well too, we struggle so much with that. I think because medicine, especially emergency medicine, I would say, because I'm biased, has beat so much out of us. Like we are here more times than not how we missed the mark, how we didn't meet the metric, how this was wrong, how X, Y, and Z, that we're so used to finding fault in ourselves and not necessarily highlighting what we're good at, what our strengths are, what we need to tap more into. And so, like I said, I just love that you started with that, because I just think that medicine, as well as a layer of being women, as well as a layer of being Black women on top of that, it's just like so many times we're just heard how or told that we're not we're not the standard, we're not meeting
we're not
it,
enough.
that it's hard for us to accept that we are doing things that most people cannot, and they wish that they could.
Exactly. I mean, and these hospitals are running a business, and we're not taught business. You mentioned, you know, my mom being an entrepreneur. I've seen her, she's a serial entrepreneur. I've seen her say, okay, well, let's shift. We're going to do this business side. We're going to do that. And it was like, okay, like I have always had the mindset of how can I make money? I mean, I used to do nails in the basement in high school. Okay. So I've always been business minded. And so I had to really just stop and say, because my mom used to own a nail salon. That's how I got it.
Okay.
But I had to stop and say, like, why am I letting go of that aspect of me just for medicine? Like, am I really ready to surrender everything to medicine and not look at what I'm interested in outside of medicine? Like, no, you know? And even people who don't have business background, have never seen people run business. It's like, you have to look at the fact that we are so highly educated. We've been trained in so many things that there is something that you offer to the world that you love and enjoy. And in turn, like, that's your blessing. That's what's going to make you money. So, and maybe it is medicine. Maybe that is it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the only thing. But I have to believe that we are, you know, multifaceted people and that we have other things about us that we should strive to like cultivate and try to figure out, you know, what it is we can offer and be blessed in turn. So
good. Yes. No, yeah, you're 100% right. And I think that's also the power of coaching, because you said it was a coach that helped you to recognize that. Sometimes it's hard to see inside of yourself because you have all of the filters and your experience and your thoughts and your feelings and all that other stuff that's inside, that sometimes it does take someone else outside of you who didn't grow up with you, who has nothing but your best interest in mind, to say, no, that's what that is. No, you need to tap into that, or at least let's go try this one. I think this is what we might be able to do, and this is what I see inside of you. So I love
coaching
the fact
changed my life. It did. Like coaching changed my life, because I was like, what's next? And we're often like, as being, you know, educated people, like, well, do I need to go back and get an MBA? Do I need to go back and get a master's? Like, what else do I need? Like, I need some more education. I don't know what I need to get to where I'm trying to go, but that's the first thing we resort to instead of looking in ourselves and what we already have.
Yeah.
That's what coaching did for me. It was like, nah, what are you really trying to accomplish? What do you like? What is it about you that you like need to actually focus on? So yeah, shout out to Dr. Kimmy, because that was like a point in my life where it was like, okay, I took this full-time job and it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Is it okay for me to even go back into doing locums now as a mom? Like, and so that was a blessing that I took that step and was like, yeah, it's okay to do that. And yeah, it's okay to pivot. And yeah, it's okay to like make money off of what your gift is. And and investing in people and getting paid for it in turn. So yeah.
No, shout out to Dr. Kimmy, who is still one of my business coaches, who has been on the podcast as well too. Because I just it takes an amazing business coach, and I'm so glad that the vast majority of the coaches or the coaching that I have received has been from other Black women entrepreneurs, and honestly sometimes Black women physicians as well too, because that's, like I said, a different dynamic and things like that. But no, that's so powerful and so good to have someone that can see you on multiple layers, not just being Black, not just being a woman, but also being a part of the house of medicine as well too. And so she thoroughly understands what it's like to be, you know, in the thick of it and quit or pivot, because she quit her job and just started doing something else too. So yes, and I think that's also why people need to take the opportunity to bet on themselves, which you definitely did. Like it may not work out, but I always feel like when you take the opportunity to at least try something and to get help to try something, then that's always going to lead you where you're meant to be, regardless of like if your business flops or it doesn't get off the ground, whatever it is.
It's okay being okay with failing at something. It's something we not good with. Like, we don't want to fail, so that is the challenge in being like, okay, am I going to take this first step? Because when you've already said, like, told yourself, oh, I might fail, you're already going to be hesitant to do it. So that's why definitely coaching, especially in the locums game, so many ways we create safety and dysfunction in the jobs that we have and stay longer than we should and delay getting to that point of happiness that we deserve and can accomplish, can achieve. So that's the other part of why, especially Boss Life program is so helpful in helping people get over those first steps and saying, okay, I am capable of doing this. And let me get with somebody who's done it. Let me get to somebody who's living the life that I want to live in terms of like, not exactly, but being able to like buy back your time and do the things that you love, whatever that is, and let medicine finance those things that you love and that you're trying to do on the other side. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So good. Dr. Jamila Goldsmith, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the Docs Get Money podcast? I feel like I learned something today. I felt edified, even though I've been doing this for a little while. Like I said, she is one of my gurus that I'm like, girl, I think they effing up with me. What's going on? But what else? Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we sign off?
I just want to say, don't ever think it's too late to do something. Don't ever think you're so stuck in, the pathway that you're on that you can't pivot or change. Don't ever feel that you are confined to the box that you may be in. Don't ever feel that way. It's always an opportunity to grow and to push yourself to do something different. And so, with that, if there's anybody out there who is watching and curious about locums, definitely don't hesitate. Reach out to me. Check out my podcast, The Locums Lounge. You can hit me up on Instagram, Messenger. I promise I will get back to you. And I love to help. So,
yes, thank you again. This has been, like I said, a long time coming. I've been watching you from afar, then got a chance to meet you because we're in the same group.
I'm so happy we had a chance to sit down and chat.
Yes. Okay. Well, without further ado, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. Please hit up Dr. Jamila Goldsmith. All of her links are in the show notes, so you can find exactly where she is. But until next time, see you later and make some money.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.